Hi everyone, my name is Laura Bonani and I did my presentation on implementing basic math skills through the use of technology. Throughout the past 2 years I've been teaching, I noticed that a lot of my students were struggling with basic math skills. So that would be addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. I noticed that a lot of them were running to their calculator. I would ask them to do simple addition facts or multiplication facts, even something like 5 times 0, and they were just unsure of themselves. They didn't know what the answer was. They needed to use that calculator. So at first I thought, okay, maybe it's something I'm doing wrong. Maybe I need to do something different with my teaching. So I talked to my colleagues and they actually said they were having the same problems. So when this project came up, I knew that it was a great opportunity for me to come up with a resource to help my students. Math is a subject that builds. So if a student loses one of those concepts that they were supposed to learn in 4th or 5th grade, then that could greatly affect their understanding of the concepts that they need to learn in algebra in 9th grade. The need for this training is to create an online resource for students to go to do their assignments. So I would need a website that they would just go to. There'd be a list of their assignment. They could go on it whether they're at home, sick, or in class. The parents also would have access to this website so they could see what their students were working on and they could help them in the process. I would also need to find interactive math games and online video tutorials. The tutorials that I would find would not only help them solve problems by giving them examples, but also ones that had tips on how to solve addition and subtraction, multiplication, and division problems. The bottom line, what I needed to do was figure out some way on how to get kids to master these basic math skills and to make math fun for them. I believe it is very important for teachers to get to know their students. I try to do this in my classroom from day one. I try and talk to them, figure out what they're interested in, what their life is outside of school. I noticed that for some of my students, the problem with them having trouble learning was their family life. And it's really sad, and I hate hearing these stories, but a lot of kids, they have better things to worry about than school. I've had students that had to work late night shifts, would go home, maybe sleep if they were lucky, and then come to school and be exhausted. And they're doing this to help their family. So in their head, they're thinking, this is nothing compared to what I have going on at home. Another major reason why students were having trouble was because they didn't master these skills early on in their education. Like I said before, math is a subject that builds. So if they didn't get that concept early on, then it's going to be very difficult for them to apply that concept later on in their algebra, geometry, and even calculus classes. My goal throughout this was to improve students' basic math skills. I wanted to target the students that were struggling. That's why I did this training on my Essentials class. My Essentials class is basically a math help class for my students. I taught 5 geometry classes, and out of those 5 classes, 22 of my students were put into my Essentials class. These were the students that struggled the most in math, and they were targeted during their 9th grade year as struggling students. So I thought that this was a great opportunity for me to use that class to build their basic math skills. We had a lot of extra time in that class, and this fit in perfectly. I also wanted to improve the speed and their efficiency of their basic math skills. I wanted them to quickly answer questions, not wonder or have doubt that they had the correct answer when asked to add something or multiply. Before starting teaching this training to my essentials class, I needed to figure out their past, all my students' past. I wanted to know their math grades, their plan scores. I talked to their previous math teachers and counselors to see what their work ethics were. I also needed to research different websites that I would be using. I did this by searching online. I looked at different math blogs and I talked to other teachers. And then throughout the process, I wanted to figure out, is this really working? So I collected the students' homework and checked it. I gave them quizzes and I did in-class student response questions with them. I used my Class Weebly site that I had already had made to upload assignments and list the websites for my students. They were already familiar with how to go to the website to get assignments in their general geometry class, so going to it for this training wasn't as big of an issue for them. This is the class website that they would go to. The first day of training, I told them to go to their Geometry Essentials tab, click on Basic Math, and all their assignments would show up. So day 1, we started off with the introduction. Day 2, we did addition, again with day 3, and it tells them to watch the videos. So they click on this link, and here is the video that they would watch.
Look at the strategies for basic addition facts. Okay, for the easy sums like 1 plus 1 plus 2 and plus 3, we just count on. 6 plus 1 is 7. 7 plus 2, 8, 9. 8 plus 3, 9, 10, 11.
So that's one of the videos that they would look at with tips on how to do simple addition facts. Then I would also have them go to games. They were interactive websites that I called them. So they click on this link and a game pops up. This one is how to match 10. So they would find numbers that, here's 5 over here, I'd have to find another 5 because 5 plus 5 is 10, and there it goes, the ball goes away. Find another one, and there we go. So then they would just continue this. I'd have a couple different games for them. I'd also have on here a helpful math links that they could go to, where I listed all of the websites and more that I used. So one that I thought was really cool was this Pac-Man one. Kind of brought me back to my childhood. They would play, and just like we played Pac-Man on Atari, they would play, except this time on the computer, and they would have to answer math questions along the way. And again, parents and students were able to go to these websites together. My lesson plans were for 10 days, which took about 2 weeks of school time. I focused on the addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division individually. I had different handouts for the students. Day 1, I gave them the instructions on how to access the website and where to go in order to find their assignments. I also gave them a pre-test to figure out where they were at. And then I gave them little worksheets that gave them tips and tricks on how to add. Kind of gave them little shortcuts and reminders of what to do with problems. I also had other handouts with addition tables, multiplication tables, and all of that to help them. I implemented my training at the end of the school year, and I was able to do it in my classroom, and I booked a computer lab several days so that I could allow the students to work in there. I started day 1 giving them a pre-test to assess where they were at, what concepts I needed to reteach the most to them. If most of them knew one of the concepts, I knew I didn't have to cover that as well in class because they had already mastered it. Then on a daily basis, I would go over addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division individually each day. I would do example problems with them on the overhead. I would do student response surveys with them to see if they were understanding the questions. I would also allow them to go on the computer to view the video tutorials or start their homework assignment if we had time. I was also very fortunate to have a parapro in my classroom that helped me manage the students, see if they were on task, see if they were understanding the concepts. This was a big help because I noticed a lot of my students were becoming disengaged, especially since it was the last few weeks of school. They wanted summer to start as soon as possible. At the end of the training, I was able to give them a post-test that was just like the pre-test that they took that helped me see the results of the training. Although many of my students seemed to be very disengaged at the end of the year doing this training, about half of them showed an improvement from their pre-test to their post-test. A quarter of my students did the same, and then I actually had a quarter of them do worse. The kids that did worse were the kids that really just gave up that last couple weeks of school. My goal was to get 80% of my students to improve their math skills. I didn't achieve that, but I'm hoping the next time I do this, I will. I'm going to do different things, add different websites, collaborate with other teachers, and by doing all that, hopefully it'll help my students succeed better next time. Looking back at the whole process of going through this training, if I could do it over again, which I will, I would definitely do it in the beginning of the year and then again at the semester, at the second semester. I think that by doing it at the start of class, it sets a precedent for the students. It tells them that this is what we're doing. They're not as antsy, and it becomes a daily routine for them that they know they have to do. Starting it at the end of the year, it created a lot of problems with me. The students were disengaged. Although the students were disengaged, I kind of used that as an advantage for me. I tried to see what they were more engaged in than this training. I noticed a lot of them could not put their cell phones down. They wanted to be texting, they wanted to be on social media. So as the training went on, I started to do more activities where they had to use their phone to answer questions, and I'm looking now for next time for more websites, more activities that'll give them an opportunity to use things such as their cell phone to get them involved in this whole training process. I also had a hard time remembering that students didn't get the concepts as well as I did. Things like addition and subtraction are very easy for me, especially now, but a lot of my students, it didn't come as easy. So I had to constantly take a step back and make sure all the students understood what I was teaching. This was a very good learning experience for me as a new teacher, and after talking to other teachers about it, they liked the idea and they wanted to use it in their classroom next year. So hopefully we can get together, figure out how to make it better for our students, and I'm very excited to have created this tool that will help my students better succeed.